for you to defend, and just what you consider to be some of his best attributes about how he goes about attacking a defense.
Right, and I think if it's okay with you, I'll work backwards on that. I think he's an excellent coach, and why I so wanted to work with him in the first place, because you had saw, during his time at Houston and all the run and play pass that they had, to go to Washington and a completely different system, regarding RG, and then at Atlanta, different with Matt and Julio and the crew that we had there, and now he's different again in terms of how he's utilizing the personnel. And I think that's a sign of a good coach. He's tough, he's gritty, he knows how to attack, and not just the field vertically, but horizontally as well. And so I think that's what makes the matchups tough, because he really does, attack the entire field and puts guys in good positions to play. But I think that's one of the things I most respect about him, is utilizing and finding the unique stuff that a player has, and featuring that in their very best ways. Both, the system that he had, in Atlanta, and the one, that I had in Atlanta. Both of us have changed some, over the years based on personnel and how to use them. But that's, to me, what makes, the sign of a good coach. And they're tough, they're physical, they run it well. They've got versatile players in terms of how they use their fullback, their tight end, their wideout. So it'll be a tough matchup for us, but one we're certainly looking forward to.
Are you built going along with that, just how the familiarity aspect of it, where both of you kind of know how the other approaches and how he thinks going into a game and putting together a game plan? Just have you found over the past how that kind of washes out? Or
yeah, I think it does, because whether it's a division game and you get to know people, or, someone on your staff. And I think the last time probably that we squared away probably was 2019. And I'm calling that off my head, but I think that was the last time we squared away. But I think just more than anything, it's their use of the personnel and how they play, and when you add guys into the mix and use them in different ways, I think, like I said, that's the sign of a good coach, and that's why I respect him so much.
Are you built defensively to handle a physical running game? I mean, they do a lot of things, a lot of formations, but they're a physical running team. And just talk about the challenge of handling that physical running style there.
Yeah, and I think it's the motions and shifts also that go along with that that make challenge on your leverage more than anything else. A tight end motion, a shift, a receiver in the backfield, so challenging your leverage. And I think that's one of the things that their offense does well. Clearly, they've gotten a lot of explosive plays both in the run and off the play pass. But when you marry up the two things together, the run and the play pass, and they look alike, that's when you can get a linebacker or a safety to step up, and they'll try to rip one behind you. So I think system-wise, that balance that they have of run and play pass, that's what makes them unique.
And the running back, the receivers in the backfield, is that a different key for you? And obviously, Debo, what he does is, as a runner and receiver, I guess it's just more about recognition and understanding that what he can do.
Yeah, and he's certainly he attacks it. He's physical. I really admire his style. All the way back from my time in Seattle, when Percy Harvin was there in the backfield, some of the sweeps and things that he would do. He played tough and physical in his own way. And I'm not comparing the guys. I'm just saying, like, when you have a guy who has unique stuff behind the ball to run it, most of the times you see someone that was, mostly an outside runner if they're a receiver and line up in the backfield, but not him. There's inside zones and traps and counters. So it kind of goes into the details that they'll go for. And I imagine they split some time between, Wes and Bobby Turner, the running back coach, and how do they feature a guy like that? Because it takes a lot of planning. We have a guy on our team that takes a lot of planning. And so I admire that when I tip my hat to that when I see it on the other side of the ball.
You talked with us last week about how some of the positions are continuing to evolve in the league, including tight end. How do you see George Kittle in the framework of that evolving tight end position, and how is your defense equipped to handle him?
What makes, I think, him so unique, Jory, is that he can be in line, he can split out, and not all tight ends can do that. There's some excellent pass catchers that you wouldn't put at the point of attack, but not him. He can block in line, he can, cut from the backside, they can split him out. So I think what makes him so special as a player, he's going to be a wideout. He's going to be in the backfield as a running back. He's going to be in line as a tight end. So when a guy has a skill set to kind of cross into different areas, to me, that's when the really cool stuff happens. And that's a good job by Kyle and their staff of recognizing, okay, this is not just, one person to split out to get a matchup. He's a matchup in all the spaces that he goes.
The broadcast on Saturday night discussed you taking Kellen through a mock interview before he spoke with the Jaguars. What can you tell us about that process, and why was that something you wanted to do?
Well, I think, it was probably a little blown out of proportion, more just brother to brother and teammate to teammate, just to make sure, if there's anything on his mind that, can go across. I had a chance to go through some, and I've, through the years, interviewed a lot of people, so I thought if there was a chance just to pass that along to someone else, it's totally worth doing. And one day, years from now, when he's a head coach, and doing his thing, he'll be able to pass along that too. So that's kind of one of the cool parts about coaching and the brotherhood that goes into that. Just knowing, hey man, like, it's not just in the locker room, it's with the coaches too, to make sure that we have each other's back. And if there's a chance to help for Kellen or for any of the coaches, I would certainly do that.
Dan, what's it like to be back in the playoffs?
I'm damn fired up, man. Are you kidding me? The early 90s Dallas Niners, some of the championship games, for me, coming up and watching those ones, I can hear Madden and Summerall talking it through. But my first, Dallas and Niner playoff game, I'm pretty fired up to do it, man. So it's exciting. Way back when you start, this is the moments that you're leading towards to be at your best and going when the season, the regular season comes to a close. And so there's a new heightened sense of things that happen in the playoffs. And all the teams are good. They usually come down right to the end, and you battle your ass off for them. So, yeah, man, I'm fired up and ready to go.
Now that Micah's first season's over, can you kind of put into context what he was able to do for you now?
Well, I think just anytime, you've done something that's unique and different, and, we've been playing here for a long time, so we've had some excellent edge rushers. So for guys to have that kind of production when you're not playing the position full time, I think that speaks to, where his future, is going from tackles for loss and sacks and impact plays. So, we plan on him being an excellent player here for a long time, and I thought just to kick it off in that fashion for him has been a remarkable start to it. He's hungry for it, which is nice because not everybody can handle that kind of versatility, and not only at any part of your career, but especially as a rookie. And so I definitely tip my hat to him. I'm proud of the work that he's done so far. But we got, as we're getting into the new space right now, I'm looking forward to seeing him compete here moving forward.
How do you help Micah get into that new space? Obviously, it's the postseason, and there'll be more attention on him from opposing offenses.
Yeah, that's a good thing, and we haven't addressed that yet, although we have addressed, kind of the urgency that we're looking for, and he doesn't have to put the cape on. He just has to do his job really well, and so I think that's kind of been my message, not just for Micah, but for the other guys as well, to play good playoff defense, man. You have to be relentless. Your energy's got to be right, but you got to do your job really good. You don't have to go win the game on this play, but when your play comes and that moment's there, you got to go capitalize it. And we've all seen that time and again. When this part of the game comes and this moment's there, you go and you nail it. And one thing I know about him, he's down for the challenge. So this guy loves to compete, and so it'll be fun to see him do his thing in his first playoff experience moving forward.
How do you manage your time when teams are seeking permission to talk to you about their vacancies?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'm not trying to avoid it or to be coy. There's just simply nothing to report on my end, and when job changes happen and coaches let go, it's a difficult time for them, their families, the assistants, the team, everybody that goes into that. So listen, it's nice to hear if someone is interested. That's not lost on me. I had a difficult 2020 season and didn't go so good, so that's not lost on me. But there's really nothing to add on my end, so there's not a lot of time management or anything that has to go into mine other than just kicking ass and being right where my feet are. So hopefully we can just talk Niners today, because that's really where my heart and my head are moving forward.
When Kyle Shanahan prepares for your defense, how different do you feel your defense is compared to the one that he remembers from the practice field?
Yeah, that's a good question, Michael. I would say there'll be some similarities in terms of, a framework and a style, and hopefully a play style, that comes across. But I would say that's probably where it ends. From a structure of 4 down or 5 down, he would have saw a lot of that in our times together. But what's probably different from my end is just the way that we use some of the coverages, the way that we use some of the pressures, and there's quite a bit that's different on his end too. So if you had pulled out our tape from 15 and 16, from practice, both his offense and the defense, that I'm, obviously using here would be quite a bit different. So I would say, significantly different.
Constant evolution as a coach, how important have you learned that is? And is there a balance between staying true to what you believe in and your principles with also being open to adaptation? Yeah,
I think, and it is one of the coolest parts about coaching, because the changes, they keep happening, and so the learning never stops. So early on, I would say, way back at the start of my NFL career, I was fortunate enough to start at the Niners when Bill Walsh was still there, and it was my first experience and my first insight into like roles for a player. This could be a short yardage fullback. This guy could be a pass rusher that would be into these things. And it kind of opened my mind to new possibilities of roles for players and how to feature guys to go in them. And so I think we're seeing that more than ever in the NFL, versatile players and tight ends and receivers that are, carrying the ball out of the backfield, quarterbacks that have designed runs, specifically for them, not just zone read, but I'm talking about regular option style runs. So when you have these unique players, I think it's important not to be so rigid to say, well, this is how we've always done it, this is how it's going to go down. So having changes and adjustments to suit the personnel, I think that's what the best of the best do. And knowing that it has to change what you need to do to win this week, that's what has to be done. And so it's pretty cool to be a part of that and see guys with different skill sets and different ways that we play. And like I said, it's kind of one of the best parts because the learning never stops.
How is Neville coming and sort of playing his way into game shape with as much time as he missed, and how important is he with that run defense to try to combat that physical running attack coming at you? Yeah,
very important. And that's why you probably saw, some increased play time for him just to get into the groove, to be into that, to be in some different schemes, over the last few weeks. And he'll definitely be a factor right there in the middle of it again this week. So I would see his arrow just continuing to go up. The early part, we just kind of honestly had him into some pass rushing, spots to do that. And then over the last few weeks, both in practice and in the game, we incorporated him more on early downs, on first and second downs. But inside, both he and Watkins and Osa and some of the other guys, they'll be a real factor. They've got a veteran center in Alex, who I know well, kind of directs and runs the ship. They have some, plays in the run game that are unique and different. So it's a challenge, but one inside that we'll definitely lean on Nev and his size and strength inside.
The fraternity of coaches reaching a Super Bowl isn't huge. What is that bond like for you and Kyle? And is there a special bond just considering how close you all got and how painful it was not to get to the finish line? Yeah, and I think for both of us, you want to go back, and that's certainly what we did, and you talk about it and you say, what'd you learn from it? Because otherwise the pain of not completing the deal, would be lost on it. So you want to make sure we both studied it, learned from it, discussed it, and that way when you get back into that space, into that moment, you're able to attack it and go. But the guy's a fantastic coach. I had no doubt that he, would do well there. I can certainly remember talking to the Yorks when, they came in to interview him, and I just wanted them to know how impressed I was. He's ready to do this. He's been, kind of built for it for a long time, growing up, the son of a coach, but the leadership, the vision for it, he was going to be excellent. And so, it's a shared experience that we have, but one, hopefully years from now, there'll be other things to talk about and in a better way. But hey, I get it. A couple years ago, I would have been pissed about it and tried to blow it off. But, part of me going to fix some things and say, hey, how can I do things better? I had to go back and look at that moment too and know that it is hard to get there and all the challenge that goes to it. So I'm never going to look past it and, just take the things I've learned and rock it from there.
Dan, this defense is just night and day difference than what it was a year ago or when you took the job. From when you took the job and you were watching tape of these guys to where you are right now going to the playoffs, what about this defense are you most proud of?
Man, there's a lot. I would say, one, I'm probably most proud of the connection that they've built together. You know, we talked about putting a standard together and what they could do as a group of men together. And the best teams that I've been a part of have been really good in the locker room first. And I've learned a hell of a lot through the years from the locker room. That's where do you listen? Where do you engage on guys? Where does that connection take place? And so in 1 year's time to see this group of guys connect, have each other's back, and want to fight for something that's bigger than themselves, that's not easy to do. And so that doesn't come from me, that comes from them, and wanting to battle and fight for one another and just make sure that you do your job so I can do mine. And they've taken that approach, and so I'd say that to me is number one, that connection that you have to have. There's nothing like being in that huddle with your guys and the game's on the line, you're ready to battle your ass off for it, and you can look to the guys and know they're down for it. I would say the second thing, that would be, pumped for them as we talked about the importance of creating takeaways and having a mindset for the ball. And really, Mike's done a good job of championing that for us. But to have that go our way in terms of the turnover battle, that helps you win games. So I'd say those would be the two things that I've been most pleased with, the connection and creating the takeaways. And I just think as they're building together, we're going to continue to see the improvement. And that's why I'm excited about where they're at and where we're headed.
All right, thanks, Dan.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Thanks. Dan.
All right, see you.
Thanks, Dan.
Would have been here all night. Nice work, as always.
All right, ready?
Afternoon, Kellen. What's the significance for this group to set a franchise record in scoring and also lead the NFL in scoring this year?
I think certainly contributes to or attributes to all the guys who contribute. I mean, defense, special teams is a part of that. Scoring points, obviously, they did a tremendous job of contributing to this. we have a lot of guys who've been involved throughout the year, guys who've had different opportunities as the season's progressed. And so it's an awesome collective thing that all those guys achieved together. And so obviously at the end of the day, this thing's about points. It's not about yards. It's not about really any other statistical things. Now, granted, there's some ones that benefit you and usually lead to winning, but ultimately it's about scoring points. And so, collectively as an entire team, all three phases, I think everyone contributed and helped that.
Do you feel good about where you are just from an efficiency standpoint and an explosiveness standpoint going into the postseason offensively?
Certainly we feel good. There's always things to improve on throughout the season. You're going to be going through a playoff time of year, and you're still going to be wanting to improve on things, and that's part of the process of this thing. We feel really comfortable with where we're at. We feel fairly healthy, fairly available as far as the guys that can go in there. We can play multiple ways, whether it's running, passing, and different personnel, and so we feel like we got great opportunities ahead of us.
On the broadcast, they talked about how Dan helped you prepare you for the interview with Jacksonville. Can you just talk about that relationship and how that helped you, and how do you handle now the interest from Denver?
Yeah, no, Dan's awesome. Dan grilled me for like 4 hours. No, I'm just kidding. So, no, I mean, Dan's awesome. He's obviously been through this process a number of times, and so he's a great resource for me. I feel fortunate to be in the situation I am, to have Dan, to have Mike, different guys who've been in these situations, and so they're great resources, and I'm able to have conversations with those guys as things pop up, and they've been great for me. And as far as moving forward, I mean, we just focus on this thing. I'm smart enough to know that while I'm honored and feel very fortunate to be recognized in those conversations, you only get those when you're around really good people, and that's what we have here. We got a really special group and a really special opportunity ahead of us.
It wasn't 4 hours, it was about 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah. Dan's getting it all for me.
Kellen, forgetting the whole slump conversation or not, when Dak has a week like last week, but the last time y'all scored 50 points, the next week you struggled, what can you take from this Philadelphia game into the playoffs for momentum, and how do you make sure that you understand the relative competition when you have the success?
Certainly, we just wanted to go out there and play really clean football, kind of a balance, be able to run the ball, be able to throw the ball. Obviously Philly played it a little bit different circumstances, and so we understand that part of it. But it's all about execution, all about just playing clean football. We felt like we accomplished those things out there. Hopefully, carry some of that momentum and kind of the mojo that may come with that. Hopefully, it carries through the playoffs.
How have you seen Dak and Cedric's connection grow and I guess really be consistent pretty much throughout the career, and what does he add to y'all's offense?
Cedric has just a tremendous feel for the game. I think he does a great job. He just finds his way. He finds his way to get open. He understands defenses. I think he has a great feel and recognition of coverages, and he does a great job. He's very reliable. We're fortunate to have the receivers we have. That when a guy like Michael goes down, that we have a guy like Ced available to us, and we feel very fortunate we can keep this thing going.
Kellen, this being your first playoff game as a play caller, do you ask Mike, Dan, anybody else, like what changes now? Like, a little bit like a player going into his first playoff game, like what's different about this stuff?
I don't know. I don't know if I certainly hope we're not drastically changing our personality, once we get there. I think obviously Mike and I, as we go through the week, we'll talk and have conversations about how we anticipate this game going, kind of our approach, and we'll have those conversations throughout the week, and we have those each and every week. And so, we'll see how this goes. I think it's more focused on San Francisco than it is the fact that it's a playoff game, I think. And obviously they present us with a lot of challenges. They're really, really good defense statistically. And obviously they have the talent to back it up. Certainly starts with their defensive line and working their way all the way back. They do a really, really good job.
And is there anything you get from last year's game against these guys? Or are you so different and they so different just on personnel and scheme?
I think definitely from a personnel standpoint, obviously there's a lot of differences between the two. Structurally, I'm sure both sides can get a little bit out of it just because, there is some similarity from the structure, from the scheme standpoint. But obviously, a long time ago, over a year ago, and you're probably going to see a lot of different players on the field.
How would you assess where you are in the running game? Obviously, you didn't have Pollard in that last game, and it looks as if you're going to have him on Sunday. Where do you stand with the run game right now?
Yeah, we feel like we're making steps, we're making progress. Every week's a challenge in the run game, and there's talented defensive lines in this league, and there's definitely challenges each and every week. I feel like we're excited with where we're going, with the opportunities we have. Obviously, getting Tony back in there will be great for us. We'll continue to be able to play Zeke, Tony, Corey when we need, and we feel very comfortable with where we're going.
As a play caller, when you know that the playoffs are coming, do you prepare for certain things to have in your pocket leading up to it when the stakes are such as they are?
Certainly, you're playing every game to win, bottom line. I don't think that ever changes even the last few weeks. Now is there some things maybe, that you think may favor a particular opponent as the season progresses, maybe. I think we're always trying to focus on, we're playing Arizona to win, we're playing Philly to win the last few weeks. Certainly there's things that build throughout a season schematically, and so there's always benefits to that, and what's on film is what's on film, and we got a new opportunity ahead.
Kind of a twist on Todd's question about the first playoff game. What do you anticipate the emotion being like for you? Will it be any different, or did all that kind of get taken care of when you were a quarterbacks coach in 2018?
Certainly, I feel like, hopefully this game is, I'm sure it'll be, the energy in AT&T will be great, and that's what playoff games are. They always do have a little bit more energy to them, but I think hopefully, players, coaches, everyone, there's a routine and there's a rhythm to each and every week, and hopefully we stay fairly consistent with that, and approach this game very similar to how we have in the past throughout the last 17 of these, and that's my goal and that's my hope.
How much of an asset is Dak as you get ready for this run?
Dak's played in these games. He's played a lot of football. Obviously we feel very, very strongly about the player that Dak is, and we're going to have some great opportunities ahead of us. We got a lot of really talented players on offense that we feel great about. Played a lot of football together. And so, this is the time. Go execute game plans each and every week, take care of business, and we'll see where it takes us.
Hey, Kellen. I know you're not game planning for Kyle Shanahan this week, but just as somebody who keeps an eye on the league and what other teams are doing, just curious for your thoughts on some of the stuff they do, particularly with their running game.
Yeah, obviously they're as good as anyone in the run game. They're a team. You'd be dumb not to watch their stuff. They're always on the cutting edge. The way they've evolved, even from Atlanta to San Francisco, and each and every year it seems like they have a new wrinkle to it. And obviously Debo this year and the way that they've utilized him has been really, really special, really, really cool to watch. And so they're always going to present you with challenges, certainly I would imagine on the defensive side, and something you're always trying to see if we can grab a piece or two from them as their season progresses, things that may be able to be incorporated into our stuff. And so they do an awesome job.
Blake Jarwin.
Kellen.
Oh, go ahead. Well, Blake Jarwin was able to get on the field on Saturday. What did you get out of that, and what did you see of it?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome to see Blake get through, the challenges that he experienced through the year just from an injury standpoint. It's great to see him back out on the field. Hopefully, he kind of got his feet wet, got comfortable again out there on the field, and he'll be a big asset for us as we make this run.
Sounded like Newey had a question. Yeah, Kellen, can you talk about the experience of going out here to win a game, calling plays to win a playoff game, but at the same time knowing that you're auditioning for people who are watching you for potential jobs?
Again, opportunities are awesome. They come when you win, when you're around good people and you have success. And so if you're 4-12, you don't get those opportunities, bottom line. We got a great group. We're ready to go, try and find a way to win this thing. It'll be really challenging against these guys. And, again, we're fortunate to be here.
Does anybody have anything else for Kellen?
Kellen, your red zone, I think you're 13 of your last 13. Is it something different than you guys have done, or is it just basically execution and just jinx it by bringing up the number of?
Yeah. That's what they do at the free throw line, right? Say he hasn't missed one. No, I feel like our guys have done a really, really good job down there. Great job with the ball. Just I think our guys have been really efficient, getting completions, running the ball down there. I think our guys have executed it. I think bottom line, you got to give them credit. They've done a tremendous job down there.
Anything else? All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kellen.
Thank you.
Comedian up there too.
I'm ready.
All right, go ahead, Coach Fassel.
Hey, everybody.
Good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon.
When you've had a kicker that's had an uncharacteristic season like Greg, when you're at this point going into the postseason, is it more just about making sure he's fine mentally versus anything mechanically that you can do at this point?
Yes. Yeah, I think we're at the point now where there's a few things that he knows how to tighten something up that he's been working on. But I think at this point, 17 games in, and he missed all the preseason, of course, but I think it is just psychological. And there's actually something we're going to do to help him out a little bit that we talked about. So, but yeah, I think the biggest part is just having confidence that this thing is going right down the middle every time.
When a player misses extra points, how different is your coaching perspective on what you're looking at relative to a missed field goal?
Not much difference, except obviously 2 points difference between the 1 and the 3. But yeah, you don't want to see any of them go outside of it. You don't think, so just a PAT, it's only 1 point. Okay, a field goal different. I look at every kick, a PAT or a field goal, as the same. And obviously, the last couple of years, PAT is different than what a PAT used to be. But it's still, for Greg, it's a 100% make, and he just got to do it. He knows it, and I have full confidence that he will. There was a season, might have been 2015, where he was, he kind of got cold for a little bit, and then he rebounded like he always does. So I've been around Greg enough to see him go through the valley and then rebound. And every time that's happened, he's rebounded. So I see no reason why it wouldn't be different this time. For kind of the same reasons, you kind of get cold.
But in terms of a technique standpoint, or just given that extra points are always going to be the same distance versus field goals, you might have to change a few things up. Do you coach it differently in that regard, or do the corrections for a player need to be different in that regard?
No, I don't think I look at the technique or anything different on a PAT compared to a field goal. I'm trying to answer your question in a better way, but I think every kick is the same, whether it's a PAT or whether it's a 20-yard field goal or a 55-yard field goal from left hash or right hash. I think Greg approaches it the same way. He tries to take the same cut at every ball, regardless if it's a 22-yard field goal or a 57-yard field goal. Really, his mindset is the same on all those kicks. Hope I answered your question.
You mentioned doing some things differently with him this week. Is it about him, or is it about maybe the protection and how you set things that way?
Good question. No, I think our protection's been really solid. Our operation's been really good. Just something that, I think psychologically might help Greg, and you'll probably see it on Sunday afternoon. And if not, then I'll let you know on Monday what it was.
Is Pollard back to being your kick returner, or are you still trying to figure that out right now?
I think we're still trying to figure that out, Calvin. It's going to be the confidence that Tony has in his ability to do that task, because being a kick returner is hard, man. And you got to have the full confidence in your ability to put a lot of weight in that right foot or left foot and make those very instinctive cuts without thinking about it. The kick returners go into this place where it really becomes very instinctive, and your brain gives you a trigger and you got to hit it. And so I think that's just the confidence. Hey, TP, are you feeling like you have the confidence to make instinctive, high-speed game cuts? If he feels that way, then of course we'd love to have him back there. But if not, I think Corey's done a good job, at least handling the football. Got a little overzealous on maybe one of them on Sunday, but he was kind of feeling it. It was his former team, and maybe stay, but hey, you know what? We also like to compete, so go ahead and go.
When it's something that's believed to be psychological, where as a coach do you pull from in terms of, let's apply this toward this situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I'm pulling from is my experience. And the most interesting one I had was Janikowski. When I was in Oakland for 4 years, he was a great kicker, first of all, but he also had his ebbs and flows. And he was the one that Janikowski never wanted to become too technical or become too robotic to fix things. It was more of, let me just go out and let me just swing a little bit more without being too over analytical on my technique. And so I think with Greg is kind of the same thing, is let's not be over analytical with, your approach, your plant foot, you start thinking about everything, and then you just become a robotic swinger. I think with him is just, let's get out there. He was in here today, making sure he doesn't kick too much this week, but just get out there and just swing, get your leg moving, kind of find that sweet spot. But don't try to, at least from my perspective, don't try to nitpick so much, because then that might have a reverse psychological effect. You start thinking about too much and your brain is cooked. It's a great psychological thing to deal with. Kicking's hard. It's got to go through. And if it doesn't, everybody knows, But I'm very proud of Greg. He's grinded very hard this season, and obviously the pressures, he feels the weight of it. He wants to perform for the team. He doesn't want to perform for himself. He wants to make kicks to help the team, and he feels the pressure. And so part of my job too is to not put more on him. Your job's on the line, the season's on the line, because I don't think that helps, because I think he knows that. So part of it is, hey, man, get back there, have the mindset that I'm going to poke this sucker and it's going to go right down the pipe. I'm not going to aim. I'm not going to guide it. I'm not going to overthink it. My team needs me, so I got to get this done. And I think that's where we'll find Greg at on Sunday.
How did those two juxtapose? Because last week you guys watched all of his kicks, his makes, his misses. You talked him all the way through. And then now it's don't think too much. What's the balance there of wanting to go through things, but also for a guy who might be thinking too much, can that be counterintuitive to go through that exercise?
Yeah, I think that's been not my dilemma, but kind of my exercise is, we can't just not watch the tape and say, okay, hey, next week's going to get better. Let's pretend like nothing happened. So we got to go back and watch it and critique it. But that is the balance that I think every coach is always trying to find is, where do you want to critique? And, there's some technique stuff, and you got to get to work in and not just sweep everything under the rug, but you also don't want to overdo it. I think that's always been at least a special teams balance, even if it's a punt returner or you're like right guard on punt team, where sometimes those positions aren't in the spotlight like a kicker would be, where, they mess it up, but it kind of gets lost in the wash. That is a balance. Yeah, and I'm trying to find the perfect mix of, hey, let's study it, let's critique it, let's work on it, versus let's also just go play some football and not think about it too much. I don't know if I have a perfect answer for you exactly what's always worked, because I think every person is a little bit different.
John, you say you have confidence in your kicker. As a special teams coach in this league for a number of years, when do you know a kicker just may not have it anymore, or is just not having a good season?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if I've ever been around a kicker yet where I said, this is probably it for him. I was in Baltimore with Matt Stover, and he had, he was an older kicker that had some good years. I was with Janikowski, and he was still pretty dang good. I think probably where I make the evaluation is in practice. What's the sound of the ball coming off the foot? Is it dull, or you can tell when a ball gets towed, there isn't that same impact. Is the trajectory lower coming off the foot compared to what it used to be? This season in practice, Greg's practice production has been like it's really always been, to be honest with you. The sound of the ball coming off the foot's the same, the trajectory's the same, the power's the same, the accuracy's the same. So I think it was 2015 we went through a stretch with Greg where it was his contract year too. He got cold, and the whole season he kind of got cold. He warmed up a little bit at the end of the season, and then the very next year I think might have been his Pro Bowl year or the year after that. So I'm not sitting up here having false hope or just making claims out of the blue like, yeah, he's going to pull himself out of it. I've seen it. There might come a time where, yeah, he doesn't ever get it back, but this time isn't now. I love Greg. I believe in Greg, and I'm not supporting him just because of my experience with him over the last 10 years. This is a production business, and when we stop producing, then things change. But I have full faith in Greg. I do. And if I'm wrong, then I'll be wrong. But I just really think I'm going to be right. I guess we'll see.
John, yesterday the Niners lost their punter during the game. Do you go through any kind of emergency situations during the week in practice just to get either Brian a kick if something were to happen to Greg, or Greg some punts to make sure they just kind of get used to doing it?
We do, Todd. Yeah, we do it actually on our own. So when the guys are out on the field on Wednesdays, we'll go into the indoor on our own, and we'll obviously work 95% of their focus, and then, okay, this happens, hey, Greg, handle a punt or two and go ahead and bang it. Brian, let's go ahead and, hit a BAT. Probably wouldn't have Brian hit a field goal more than, 35-yarder. And then also with the snapper. So it's not spent a lot of time on, but just in case that does happen, then, we have the ability, to go to the next man. It's unfortunate what happened to Mitch, because that was a big hit, man. And part of our discussion is we don't do any tackling practice or taking on blocks practice, but we look at some tape and say, okay, Brian or Greg, if you're in this position, what do you do? Not necessarily wanting to take on some of those real blockers.
Bobby, why don't you go ahead?
Who's your backup holder?
Cedric Wilson.
All right, try now. Bobby?
Hey, John, when you look at you talked about all this confidence that you have in Greg and the things that you see at practice. Is there a point where the in-game results begin to trump some of those other things that you're seeing during the week?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And Greg knows it comes down to making kicks in the game. You could be an all-star on the driving range, but when you got to tee it up on the first tee box, you got to put it on the fairway also. So it's the same thing. Stupid analogy, but practice is important for gaining confidence and technique and the operation. But the kicks got to go in on game day, and nothing beats making kicks on game day. So yeah.
Michael?
We've seen most of Greg's misses go left. Why, in this instance, did it sway right?
He took a good cut at it, and he hit it kind of fat. And when fat, he means he hit the grass just a little bit too far behind the football, and so it opened up his foot and squirted it to the right. It was simple as that. He said, I just hit it fat. He said, I hit it fat, damn it. And I said, just swing at it, man. Just don't lighten the load on it, swing at it, because you got to keep taking cuts at it. When he missed it, I was the same thing. I was like, damn. Because I know, everyone's going to be talked about. Like this whole press conference, all we've talked about is Greg's one miss PAT. So, he'll start making kicks. We can start talking about some of the other guys that have done a great job this year.
I'm sorry to ask about Greg then after that.
No, it's good. Hey, this is what it's all about.
For someone who it seems has, if anything, a penchant to overwork, maybe kicking too much and the sort, I know you're not in the business of excuses, but when he goes through the surgery and he's kind of behind the eight ball in terms of, not having his normal off-season routine disrupted and trying to get ready for the season, not having too much preseason to work with, do you think that at all disrupted his early season rhythm?
Yes. Yep.
Is that at all what we're seeing, the after effects of that?
I would say yes. Because he's kind of been trying to find it really all season. He's really been kind of trying to find it all season, and he really only started trying to find it when, the game was live, Tampa week. That's when we first got him out. We kicked quite a bit actually in the preseason, but it was all just swinging, really no operation. About every other day, we did quite a bit of swinging off the time clock. Nobody was out there. I don't think people realize that, but But as far as the operation and true game, he really started trying to find it right about when the season started. And so that put us behind the 8 ball. And I think he's still, I can speak for him. I think he's still trying to find it. And he's been real close. And for a couple of weeks there, he was really dialed in. And then he said Kansas City game, he hit a couple really good balls. And then he just kind of lost it. And he's been kind of back and forth. It seems like since the Kansas City game, where he felt like that's when he found it.
You don't think that's kind of scary to be going into a playoff game and you're still talking about your kicker trying to find it?
If it was a rookie, maybe. But I think every kicker's kind of lost it before and they find it again. I think Tiger Woods a lot of times has lost it. It's like if you're a golfer, it's like, man, once you get it down, why don't you just stay with that forever? But either they kind of lose it or they kind of tweak it. So it's a good question. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, think
Tiger's a Hall of Famer, though. Tiger's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, well, we got a ways to go, Greg. I think everybody's kind of, as far as making me nervous going into the playoff game, that's not making me nervous. But, who we're going to have active, who we're making sure nobody gets COVID. There's a lot of other things, too, that are like, man, there's a lot of unpredictables that are happening in the special teams world. Who's going to be dressing? So there's... Let's go.
John, I believe Brian finished the season averaging 44.6 yards per punt, which was a franchise record, 4th highest net average in a season in NFL history, the game notes were saying. I know you've spoken with us at different points this season about what he's doing so well, but now that he's carried that success through the full regular season, can you just talk about what impresses you most with his year and how difficult it is to achieve something like that?
Yeah, that's it's a good question. I've said it all along with Brian, is his process during the week is fantastic. I mean, he has a very good plan, how many balls he wants to hit on Wednesday and Thursday, and we go through some drills, and he's really stuck to the plan. Brian would tell you he's very proud so far of the protection he's received and the coverage that he's gotten, because that all factors into net. Net, to me, is definitely attributed to the punter, but it's also attributed to the other 10, because you got to protect them and you got to cover that thing and down the ball as fast as you can. So I really, I'm proud of the net punt record for the Cowboys, because it's a season-long thing. It's not like, hey, this was a great game or this was one amazing punt. It takes, I don't know how many times we punted it this year, but everyone had to be pretty darn good to flip the field. And really that's the goal, is the reason why you want the biggest net is because you want to put our defense on the field as far away from our end zone as possible. But it's a season-long goal that's tough, especially as many bodies as we've had on punt team. I think 17 games, we probably had 13 or 14 different punt lineups. So, really attributable to Brian and also his teammates. Pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks.
Thank you.